like I said, really, it's a pleasure that you have set time to join us this evening. Because we are almost 5 minutes after 6, I think it's about time that we start. Just like any other house, we do have some protocols that I truly believe that you are aware of, and then you will abide. And thanks that when you joined the session, you had already muted your screen, your cameras, your mics, and then switched off the cameras just to allow for the bandwidth for us to proceed seamlessly. And as we had already started by indicating where we're joining from, as we proceed, for those people that had been part of the conversation before, you will know that we create an opportunity for people to provide inputs. But in the meantime, as I proceed in terms of sharing the slides, you can type your questions in the chat. And if you really want to make an input, we're not taking you back to the classroom, but just for us to be aware that you want to make an input, just use the feature there by raising your hand. And as we go through this, let's ensure that we are fully engaged and fully present. And let's just respect each other's input. And as we make those inputs, if we can be precise, concise, that will assist quite a lot. And because we take a view as we get into these conversations that we are unlearning, and much as I am leading the discussion, it does not necessarily mean that all the answers are with me. The answers are with everyone that is on this call, because we bring different experiences on the table. So it is quite important if we respect each and everyone's input in the process. So just to quickly recap about me, high level, my name is Butaki Hlalele. I am the founder of Dreams Made Possible. And here we really cultivate personal mastery, self-worth, and leadership in others. And that is what inspires us, what we live for, and what we try to do almost on a daily basis. From a company point of view, our focus is on developing leadership capabilities across various sectors. We focus on essential skills that make leaders to be the best in what they can do and in what they do. We do that through coaching. We host individuals from a coaching perspective. We run group coaching sessions. We deliver master classes covering a wide range of topics, if you like, that makes leaders what they can be and the best that they can be to support their teams. And we facilitate strategy, leadership, and culture workshops, but most importantly, we also facilitate team cohesion sessions. I use Enneagram as a basis for our team sessions. So yeah, that's in a nutshell who we are. And I'm joining you from Alberton. I know that as a facilitator, you take the advantage of asking people where are they joining from, but you hardly say where you are joining from. So I'm joining from Alberton, and I'm happy to be the guide this evening. So just in terms of the outline of the evening, I'll just take you high level through setting the scene, and that will do by posing a question, just for us to think deep and understand where we are as individuals. And we'll provide an answer to the question. It's one thing to ask the question, but let's try to provide the answer. And like I said, we're not saying that is the answer. Maybe there are other answers that we'll get from the floor, so to say. And we'll focus on the shift that we as leaders need to make, and then zoom into coaching, what coaching is, how we need to, the type of mindset that we need to adopt to be able to be the great leaders that we can be. And then how do we start to integrate and build coaching lifestyle, leadership style into the fabric of what makes us as leaders. And then we'll end up talking about aspiration. I mean, what the aspiration that most of you as leaders have, as organizations you have, and how do we move to implementation? I hope that sets the scene in terms of how we are going to go through this session, and hoping that we're going to have an engaging session today. Thank you so much. So let's start with the question. I believe that you'll agree with me when I say, when we wake up every day, sometimes we wake up to certain things that we never thought of. When we sleep and we wake up tomorrow, certain things surprise this morning to say, hey, has this happened? Either in our personal lives, in our communities, in the organizations. So that's why we're saying we cannot predict the why, the what, and the how of how the workplaces are evolving. And that evolution challenges us differently as employees, or as individuals, as teams, but also as organizations, right? And with these changes, whether you call them VUCA, we know that the world is quite volatile. I mean, how many of us knew that we will wake up to what is happening between the US, Israel, and Iran? Probably none of us thought of that. Probably when you walk into your company, there must have been something that happened. For some of you, God forbid, you might have woken up that morning where there was a town hall and you were called to say, hey, we are restructuring in this environment, or somebody would have been called to the office to say, these are the new targets and this is what I expect you to deliver in the next 3 months. So that's why we're saying the why, what, and how of things are changing in fundamental ways. And with that change, we always ask the question, where would individuals find that essential sense of purpose and meaning? Because in the midst of all these changes as they occur, we still expected to deliver more with less, isn't it? Some of you know that maybe last year you were a team of 10, but due to restructuring, reorganizations, maybe you are a team of 6 now, but the job still remains the same, or the job has even escalated, and then you are still expected to do more with less, right? And then you're expected to meet stringent targets and timelines. Pressure is being put on you to be able to surpass the target that you met the previous quarter. And more and more expectations are put upon you to make sure that you maintain and sustain the productivity. And in the midst of all those challenges, you are expected to remain engaged, to thrive in whatever that you are doing. And that is why I say that is a fundamental question to say, how do you go through all these challenges as an individual to be able to remain relevant, to remain sane, and continue to be a member of a team, a member of an organization that delivers effectively as it is expected within the context that you operate within. And maybe let me pause a bit and ask a question, and maybe you can just type in the chat box there. If this makes sense to you, have you experienced it? The challenges that you never thought that you will experience, on a day-to-day basis. Maybe you can just type in the chat box to say, what type of challenges have you come across that you never thought when you woke up and went to work, that is the type of challenges that you'll be meeting on that particular day. And as I continue, as you maybe write in your chat box, we venture to say that the answer lies in leadership. We believe that leaders play a very significant role in ensuring that employees derive that sense of purpose, hope, and belief, and they start to have confidence within the workplace, thereby driving that meaningful shift for employees in the meaningful way. A shift that ensures that you remain engaged in your workplace, right? Especially taking into consideration that in a workplace, we've got a diverse workforce. We've got people coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different age groups, right? Or different generations. So that is very, very important for leaders to understand that shift. Also to understand that in trying to give people purpose and belief, then they've got to redefine how work gets done. If we're saying we are expected to do more with less, but we're still expecting work to be approached the same way, it is going to be challenging for employees that we lead. And from an organizational perspective, leaders play that significant role to rethink the culture of the organization in such a way that it adapts and calibrates and maintains that competitive advantage, right? And probably some of you are saying, wow, not in the environment that I work in. I do not have these types of leaders who will be able to help us navigate these challenges, for us to remain engaged, for us to do the work differently, and to remain on the cutting edge of great company that other people can look forward to work for. But equally so, you might be that leader who is supposed to initiate these shifts and make these changes so that employees get that sense of purpose and belief and want to look forward to go into a work environment where they are going to contribute effectively. So we still believe that in that process, the shift will have to start with the leader. And we're not saying employees do not have a responsibility to respond to those challenges, but that is where the role of the leader becomes very, very important, for the leader to be able to understand how they should go about to create an engaging environment where employees are looking forward to become part of something meaningful, right? And the other question or a reflection that leaders should do, because the shift starts with them, is what type of a leader should I become to create this engaging environment for the employees? And until a leader gets to that point where they ask pertinent questions as to what is it that they should do, what is it that they should change to be able to become a leader that is going to create an environment where purpose, belief, hope, motivation will be there for employees, we will never get to that point, because the shift starts with the leader. And I always encourage people when we have such conversation to say, don't look elsewhere. You are that leader. Because for a change to happen, it starts with us. So we cannot outsource that responsibility and look at my boss. Because remember, we're operating in a stratified environment, right? Some of you might be foremen, some of you might be supervisors, some might be junior managers, middle managers, senior managers. So the challenge that I have to you as we speak through this conversation is that if you have people that are reporting to you, they are looking up to you. So the challenge is not only you to look at your senior leader to say, I hope he was on this call or she was on this call to listen to the message, but also to challenge yourself to say, the shift starts with you. Jackie, if I may just pause a little bit in terms of the charts, were there any reactions in terms of the initial request and question?
Yes, there are 2, 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind just to engage us on them?
Sure. I'm in the healthcare industry, and one of the challenges we have is dealing with mental health. We still have a lot of factors in the workplace that contribute significantly to this. That's from onset. That's number one. Number two, poor communications among leadership within an organization resist to process that taken substantial time and effort to implement. So it's on the communication side. That's from Tavasha. And then leaders must demonstrate the culture change and not only demand it from the team. They can't just call the shots, but must walk the talk. That's Togo.
Okay,
And
great.
yeah, I recently read an article about conflict between the stability that employees needs versus the high placed performance that the business need with a lean workforce.
Great.
Yeah, that's in Tabi saying there. I think I've captured all of them. Yeah, so far.
No, great. We are going to have sufficient time to engage in this discussion. I just wanted to capture these initial reactions, and then I'll go through all the slides, and then we can open up for the conversation. Thanks for all those inputs. So let's deal with the first one in terms of how leaders. What leaders should be able to do to start the shift, which is to understand and create an environment where people will remain engaged. And that shift starts with leaders understanding what motivates, what are the factors that motivate employees, for employees to be able to give their all or go to work for you as a leader. And I would like us to revisit the work of Ryan and Desi, and it was the work around self-determination theory. And the emphasis was on understanding how intrinsic motivation, social development, and well-being of employees really take root. And there are three fundamental things that we as leaders should be able to understand if we were to get the best out of our employees. And as we go through this conversation, I would like you to reflect on yourself as well, because as leaders, sometimes the cardinal mistake that we do is to look outside and forget that sometimes we put pressure on employees, but the same pressure, when it puts on us, we still feel that it is unfair because our bosses put it on us, and we create the ripple effect into the organization. So the third factor is autonomy. And this is the importance of maintaining control over one's actions and objectives. I bet you that all of us on this call, if you are in an interview and I ask you, what is it that you don't like, or how would you like to be treated as an employee? What type of a leader do you flourish under? Most of you will say, I flourish under a leader that gives me the opportunity and the space to be able to do what I'm supposed to do, meaning that I don't like to be micromanaged, right? And that is where the essence of autonomy comes from, where people innately have got this need to maintain control over their actions and over their objectives, right? So that is the first thing that you need to understand as a leader, that you need to create that environment where you treat employees as human beings, as others that who have got that need that needs to be respected. The second point is all about competence, right? The desire to feel competent, effective, and capable of successfully completing a task. This thing does not start when we are adults. It starts even when we are children. When you give a child a challenge and they move from the A to the Z of the challenge and they surmount the challenge, you will see the smile that the child gives you. When you are in probably a learning and development space and you're facilitating a class, one of the questions that you'll get from employees is to say, are you going to give me a certificate? Because they want their competence to be recognized. So that is why that desire to feel competent, effective, and capable of completing tasks is what employees or human beings in general are looking for. And most importantly, relatedness. And all of us on this call, probably you'll agree with me that it's either we personally have said it or we listen to people who say, we spend a lot of time at work. And because we spend a lot of time at work, that is an environment where we should feel engaged. So they need to feel a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, and to be valued and cared is what is important for us as human beings. So if we can master those three things, then we are already setting ourselves up to be able to move to that state where we can venture into coaching as a leadership style. And we'll just unpack now as to why coaching as a leadership style. Before I go forward, I would just like to invite one or two people just to give ideas or their thinking of what this coaching is all about. Just your definition of coaching. It does not have to be academic, but just your understanding of what coaching is all about. You can unmute yourself.
No, here.
Oh, yes. Who is it?
Yeah, I think for me as a leader, it's very important that I do understand the strength of the team. They don't have to be the same. They don't have to have the same competency, but then, tap onto their strength. And also, when you coach them, you have to show the respect and also try to show them their potential. Because most of the team, depending on the leader, they tend to hide because they are scared in terms of what will they say? What type of question should I ask? Is it stupid or not? So the way you as a leader, the way me and myself as a leader, is very important to help them to reassure themselves to saying they are good and they can do it. To create that environment where they can be able to ask questions without fear, be open and honest in terms of their ideas so that they can be innovative. So for me, I think it's more about tapping into their skills, showing them their potential, create the environment where they feel like this is a safe space for me to, toss my ideas without somebody judging me. Thank you.
Tapping into their skills. Thank you so much. Tabile, noted. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much and good evening, everyone. So I think I resonate with the last speaker in terms of helping the team. Of course, my perspective of it is that coaching is really about helping individuals clarify their thoughts and clarify their ideas, articulate them, but it's also the safe environment where people can explore. So you are helping them with opening new paths in terms of, have you considered this? Have you considered that? And even helping them connect, with the next person that could actually help them. But you are there to support on the day-to-day, if I may call it, in terms of just clarity of thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tabitha. Clarify their thoughts, opportunity to explore, open their new thoughts, and the ability to have, being able to assist them to connect with other people. Thanks for those two submissions. And you are spot on. And I just took the simple definition that resonates with what the two speakers have just said now from Sir John Whitmore, unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance, right? So there are two implications in that definition: helping people to become themselves, but secondly, help them to be able to perform. And this is not easy for leaders to do this because we come and we're going to touch leadership in itself has evolved. But the proposition that we put forward is that as a leader, once you integrate coaching into your way of doing things, you stepping into that space of unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance. And there's another underlying definition here that there are certain behaviors that we will need to shift from to be able to do that. And Gallup has assisted us in this aspect that I'm talking about, to say, if we agree with the two speakers and John Whitmore that is the definition of coaching, then it simply means that we need to start to show up differently, right? And simpler terms, whether we call it traditional way of doing things or being the boss, right? From being autocratic or traits-based type of leadership to hierarchical type of leadership, we need to make that shift where leaders are now asking questions, right? Tabile spoke about opening new thoughts, right? Helping people to asking questions to help people to clarify their thoughts. You do that by asking questions instead of telling. When you tell people, because now you come up with your position, and there's already a power dynamic. So when you tell them, they are bound to just accept what you say, and they can just go ahead with what you telling them to do, because that's what you want. And employees are good in giving you that what you want. So it's moving from that tradition of telling people what to do to asking questions, spiral up questions, right? Not questions that push people to defend themselves, like the why questions would definitely do. So the second part that calls us to show differently is to catch employees doing something right. You know, when you look at bosses in an environment that is autocratic, trace-based, hierarchical, authoritative, and the like, most in that case, bosses catch employees always doing something wrong. They wait to tell you what you didn't do well. They can even remind you when last did, let's say something that happened the last 3 weeks, they will remind you that you missed the point at that point in time. But coaching encourages leaders who offer feedback to optimize performance. And there's always an issue of timing at that point. It does not take time to give that particular feedback. Whereas bosses, they just supervise production, right? That's why when you look at the research recently around how really great teams work, is for leaders to adopt an infinite mindset, not a finite mindset of saying, pushing people for quarterly results, the next quarter, the new results, because it pushes people to just look at this outcome that needs to happen, and then they avoid every other thing that is important to look forward. But leaders who uses infinite mindsets, they start to develop and maximize the talent of their people, so that people can get maximum results. They know that the end of the tunnel, that is the target that they are looking. Yes, the quarterly results might be the milestones, but what is important is over time, where are we going as an organization? So it's not just about pushing for numbers and production, because that's where you find leaders starting to say to employees, I pay you to come up with solutions. Don't tell me problems, right? As if that was the most brilliant statement ever said, right? Because once you take your employees through that type of environment where you just shout at them, for example, or just say to them, I need solutions, I don't want problems. Usually, those leaders are hiding behind the fact that they do not know how to get the best out of their employees. They always shy away. I've hired you for this job, and you are the one who should give me the solutions. I bet you can challenge me, but in most cases, those leaders are not prepared. They are not geared up to maximize the potential out of their people, meaning to be able to use powerful questions to shift the needle of the performance of their employees. So for us to be able to shift from being a boss to becoming a coach, it means that we need to start by adopting a growth mindset, right? And there's an assumption as well that says move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And that is not going to be easy. And we have already touched on it. And it is because coaching leaders are part of their life journeys, right? They have gone through certain experiences that have shaped who they have become or who they are at this moment. That is why you find people being autocratic. That is why you find people being laissez-faire. That is why sometimes you find people just using one particular type of leadership style, hoping that they will get the best out of their employees. But then to be able to make that shift, you need to understand as well that most leaders became leaders in their roles because of their expertise in either their technical, functional, or professional domains, right? Yesterday, you were a good accountant, and tomorrow we're expecting you to lead a group of junior accountants, right? And because we are a good accountant, the expectation is that you will become a good leader. And we know from experience, we know from research that proposition has failed many times, right? Yes, it's important that leaders should learn on the job, right? But without support, without guidance on how then do you support this leader to become effective, they are going to remain the bosses and expecting that employees should just give production without tapping into the potential of those employees. So a growth mindset challenges leaders to move from command and control to be able to support and guide their employees. And this will be challenging for most leaders because this is how they assert themselves, right? By telling employees. That's how they show their position, their positional power, by telling employees what to do, by directing activities of how employees should deliver. And that is why sometimes you hear leaders say, I'm too busy. This coaching style is going to take a lot of my time. And it's true that coaching requires time, but there are better ways in which you can integrate it into a day-to-day so that it does not take much of your time. Or you'll hear some leaders saying, these people are not coachable. Why should I waste my time? And mainly those are the leaders who, like I said earlier, shortly now, that they will just say, I hired you to deliver, just give me the solutions, right? They will always come up with this aspect to say the person is not coachable. But when you search or ask for evidence as to what have you done to try to move this person from A to B, you hardly get the answer. So that's why those leaders will say coaching is just a soft skill that is not going to help us. But I bet you that is one of the most potent skills that you can learn as a leader to be able to move your employees to the highest level of performance. Okay. And for you to be able to make that mind shift, it is also to challenge yourself in your belief system about human beings and human ability, because there's richness in human potential. But until you believe that human beings have got potential and they can be able to tap into themselves, if the environment is created that allows for that to happen, then you will start to see the magic of your team. You know yourself, once you are being blocked, that autonomy, economy, competence as well as relatedness, if they are absent in your work environment, you feel like your potential has been stripped away from you, right? And the mindset shift that leaders need to do is embracing that human potential, but also embracing the big picture, which is to say, by moving from being a boss to being a coach, it's all about creating a learning organization within which everyone will thrive. So as we speak about this, we're not talking about extremes, because we know that there will be people that even if you take them through the rigors, they will not be part of the team, the kick-ass team, for example, if you allow me to use that word, that you want to build. But we say on average, looking at a bigger picture, once you adapt coaching, you are creating a learning organization within which team members will be able to thrive. I've been part of environments where personally, as a team member, I am part of the team, a challenge is put on the table, a leader asks incisive questions, and we start thinking, wow, we didn't think about it. And at the end of the day, we come up with solutions to the question that the leader would have posed to us. I have been a leader, leading teams, and having learned from that perspective, then I put my team in the room, and then I ask those questions to help them be able to move. That's why the Japanese method, for example, the 5 why, is such a critical aspect in terms of getting employees to think beyond the here and now and look at the different layers of a problem, right? And it is because everyday coaching has been infused into those types of environments, right? So we propose that to be able to move to a coaching leadership style, you need to stand back as a leader and ask yourself, what is my current style? Am I telling people what to do? Am I constantly redirecting people in certain ways of how they need to do stuff? Do I do things myself? If somebody fails to adhere to the standard that I have set, do I take the work and do it myself? And if you do that, how sustainable is that? Those are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself to say, what is your current style and what is the impact, both negative and positive, on you as a leader, but also on the team? If you look forward and say, and somebody from HR or your boss comes and say, we would like you to move you to a different division, would you be able confidently to say, I have somebody in my team that I have coached that is ready to take over my role? They might not be 100% ready, but they might be 80%, 90% prepared to take over the role, because nobody gets into a role fully with all the dots, the T's crossed and the I's dotted. But are you a leader that says, I'm comfortable to suggest these people to take over, right? So if you do that, continue asking yourself, can you integrate coaching into your current lifestyle if you are not that type of coach? What is it that you need to do to improve yourself if you are a person that has adopted coaching as a style? Because if you do that, you will ultimately derive the benefits. You will build foundation of trust with your team. The work of Patrick Lencioni has taught us a lot that, and in our life experiences, we know, right? It is a bonus that Patrick Lencioni taught us that we need a foundation of trust for relationships to be able to go to the next level. We need a psychological safety where employees feel that I can err and my mistakes, I will not be berated all the time for the mistakes, right? And that's what psychological safety. I can speak my mind. In that way, it unleashes employee motivation. Employees get to feel that they can communicate better among themselves, but also with their leader. And each member of the team, as you put challenges, projects on the table, and there are collective solutions to that, they feel empowered to believe that they can deliver even more. And in that way, there's heightened performance within that team, because the leader has decided to ask pertinent questions, to believe that there is human potential in these employees, and I just need to open their perspectives. And I've got to create time and have one-on-one or group conversations with leaders about what is holding them back? What are the blockers? What can they do to be able to open those blockers, right? And in that way, that's how you get into being a leader that adopts coaching as a style. And before I open up for the conversation, we are here to bridge that gap for you, right? To be able to help you as a leader and your team to be able to move into or integrate coaching into the daily fabric of your leadership style. We do that through individual coaching, through group coaching, as I said in the beginning. We offer master classes in this aspect. And also, we offer a coaching program that is customized on your leadership philosophy. Otherwise, it will be lost if we don't customize it to what your organization wants to do. We predicate it on GROW model, easy to use model. There are other models, but that is the primary model. And then we tap into coaching styles, be direct styles, indirect styles, situational style of coaching, laser stress style of coaching. We bring case studies so that your leaders are able to deal with real facts and come out being stronger to apply the skills as far as coaching is concerned. So let me stop there so that in the next 14, 15 minutes, we can have a conversation as to, firstly, where are you as a leader as far as coaching is concerned, right? Where is your organization? Have you integrated coaching into the fabric of your organization? Is it part of the DNA of the organization? And thirdly, what is it that you think you should do to move the needle so that employees can benefit from the benefits that we have already articulated? So let me stop there so that we can have a conversation. Any takers? Any reactions to what I've said? The questions that we have posed, the slides that we have covered? You can continue, Tabile.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for just sharing your insights on this and I guess the applicable models that help to support this type of leadership style. And I guess my question comes to, we spoke about different types of leaders, and you definitely spoke about an autocratic leader as one of the leadership styles, and you spoke about more telling than actually listening. So my question would be, how then do you change the mindset of this leader that prefers to tell? Because obviously they will always tell you there are decisions to be made. We are running on a timeline, this production process that needs to continue. And I don't have time for this whole exploration exercise or leadership way that you are recommending. Perhaps if you can just share your insights on that.
Thank you, Tabile, with that. Brilliant question. Let me start by saying that to transition from the way a leader sees the world, it's a worldview, right, to the proposed coaching style will take time. Because once we think that is going to be cold turkey, the next morning there will be coaches, and I'm not saying you're saying that, I'm just making a point. And already the process would have failed. So whatever approach that you take within your organization, I would like that to be the starting point to say it will take time for these leaders to be able to make that shift. And the shift starts with the leader themselves and not the outcome that we want to achieve. It's to have conversation with that type of leader in terms of their leadership journey. Why are they the leader that they are? Why are they showing up the way they are showing up? That's number one. Because out of that question, you will start to unearth limiting beliefs that those leaders actually that are stopping them from becoming the effective leader that they are. Hence, I said it will take some time, and also get into asking pertinent questions about the style that they are adopting. What results is that style bringing currently on the table? You and I and other colleagues on the call know that for us to be able to have our proposals accepted in a corporate environment, it is because of the business case that we put on the table, right? Part of the business case is to show the leader the impact of his or her style on the current employees or on the current delivery of the team. Whether your source of reference is the employee engagement survey, what do you call those interviews when employees exit interview surveys and all those things. So we need to be able to show the leader that impact, right? And for me, the other important thing is the organizations become what they are because of what we tolerate. Sometimes we see these leaders, we see the impact of their style on the employees, but we continue to tolerate that. And once we tolerate it, means that we pay it, and we pay that behavior handsomely. And those leaders will remain to be what they are. So in a nutshell, and I'll open up for other people maybe to give their views. In a nutshell, hence I start to say, to be able to impact that leader to see things differently, it will take time. It will take the conversations, asking those questions. It will take taking them through some of the powerful interventions, whether it's taking them through EQ courses as an example. Those are a combination of things. that you need to be able to do to help them to see things differently. I don't know if there's any other one who would like to maybe add or even disagree with how I see the point. Does that help, Tabile?
That definitely does answer my question, and it also just touches on, again, leaders need to be self-aware to reflect on how am I leading, because you can't lead everybody the same way as well. So that's the awareness that needs to come forth. Thank you so much for your response.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Tabi saying then, Togo, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Butaki, and good evening, colleagues. I really just wanted to share a reflection based on what you've shared over the past hour. I think what's important for me is taking the time to coach our people as leaders may feel like it's time consuming, but in the long term, it enables us to unlock true potential, which results in people applying their discretionary effort. And you spoke about building trust, you know, and just creating spaces where individuals can perform and outperform. And so I think it's just important for leaders to see just how powerful coaching is in actually achieving business results and getting our people to perform to their potential.
Thank you so much, Tabisa, for that input. Togo?
Thanks, Butaki. You know, from your response to the previous lady, I just forgot what her name was.
Tabile.
Yeah, Tabile, was when you were talking, I was just thinking, you know, sometimes it takes you as the individual to manage your leader. Sometimes sometimes you have to coach your boss or your leadership into becoming that which you need. We've seen, also as myself as a leader, we would attend so many of these training sessions where they take you through and really they become a tick box exercise. Some of the leaders are not willing to make the changes. They're not willing to do the reflections. They're not willing to, you know, to provide what would be needed. Then the onus then becomes, and also like you mentioned earlier, that it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it takes patience, it takes persistence. You may have to train your boss to become that which you need. You can prepare all sorts of presentations, all sorts of motivations, but at some point you need to just get on the ground and say, I've done my own reflection. I have done my own changes. I have managed myself so well that I can manage this person. And then eventually it's very gradual. It's very subtle changes. You start to pick them up and you will see you're on the right track. Thank you.
Super. And I think from the questions and the reflections, what I'm taking is that it seems like, and I know that not everybody has spoken, but it seems like we all agree that autocratic, suppressing, telling, asserting ourselves on people, we know that that model doesn't work, right? And the question is, where is your organization at this moment when it comes to that aspect, right? And yes, I understand there are power dynamics and all those things, but what is your culture in your organization? Is it ready to integrate coaching as part of the daily fabric of what people do? Jackie?
Sure, but I think taking what Togo was saying, you know, for coaching to flourish and be accepted in the workplace, both managing up and managing down, to unlock that potential that is there. The aspect of the work environment has to have that psychological safety element, where employees, you know, feel safe to be able to open up to the managers as they coach through to them. And then also to the Togo's point, there should be a psychological safety for managers to get the feedback from that coaching perspective so that everyone work in a seamless manner and be able to really reach their maximum potential. I think that aspect of the psychological safety in the workplace become critical when coaching has to be integrated as part of the leadership competency.
Yeah. And maybe for some people who might be on the call and say, I don't want to be a coach. We do not necessarily mean coaching in the context of what Botaki and Jake would do every day in their daily life. Because my job is to sit in my study room and on Teams or Zoom, have one-on-one calls or go into the workplace and coach leaders, right? But what we are saying is that it's an integral part of how you can make the shift. And it's just taking a shift in perspective to be able to say, I can help these people look at things differently just by asking questions. Just by asking questions, right? There's most of us on this call probably who can reflect back and think one thing that somebody had asked you that has changed the trajectory of your life up to today. I once shared on this platform for those that have worked with us for a long time to say, at one point when I was going through some difficulties in my life, a counselor, not a coach, it was in a counseling session, she asked me a powerful question to say, what do you think you're denying yourself and other people by not writing your blog articles because you are going through life difficulties? She said, go and reflect. And I went back and I reflected. And from that point, I found the solution just by reflecting. Imagine if it was my boss and they were saying to me, we don't have time to babysit you here. Stand up and go to do your work. Maybe I would still do the work, but it will just be compliance for some time. I won't have commitment and probably I'll be out of that work environment. So that is the value of coaching, to be able to tap into people and help them to reach those spaces that they never thought they'll be able to reach. And I hope that we'll hold hands together to be able to get to that point. So please, there's my email down there. If you want us to engage more into the conversation, let's take the conversation further beyond this platform. Drop us an email and we'll be able to get into that space. Maybe as we are wrapping up, maybe just a volunteer in terms of the takeaway from this session, and then we'll be able to wrap up as we reflect on the last slide that you can read for yourself. Any last takeaways, if any? On that note, colleagues, I really would like, Jackie, maybe let's read. I see that Neo has left something. Poor self-leadership can?
Poor self-leadership can cost the team a lot. Chances of missing early warning signals are high. Some tasks tend to be repeated due to lack of allowing the team to bounce their ideas. And then I think the one for Ntabi Singh, she captures it, the reflection with the people, fast is slow and slow is fast. When we go slow, invest time in continuously coaching our people, we unlock their true potential. Discretionary efforts which results in performance. Yeah, those are the two that, yeah.
So colleagues, in a nutshell, this is one of the essential leadership behaviors that we should adopt as leaders as we go into the work environment. Larry Bossidi and Ram Sharan, they say one of the essential leadership behaviors, the first one is know your people and know your business. And the critical one is know thyself. There are other 5 elements that they unpack, but those two key, know yourself, and then know your people and know your business. And you'll be able, once you do those two, in my view, you'll be able to help your leaders become the best versions of themselves. So thank you for joining us. Probably by Friday, or rather, let me say Monday, I'll be posting this video on YouTube so that you can have access to the recording. And we look forward to engaging with you further and also into our next session in July. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.